Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Haunted Basement. We got a terrific episode lined up for you tonight. We're going to take a look at some of the most compelling ghost photos in history and see if we can either debunk them or try and determine what they are. Before we do that, though, let's take 1 second and introduce ourselves to the viewers. Start off by telling us who you are and what you're mostly known for. I'm going to go right to my co-host, C. Michael Lanning. Tell us who you are.
Hey, I'm C. Michael Lanning, independent artist. What I'm known for is just kind of lurking around different streams. So,
Hey, welcome, man. I was so happy to hear that you could make it.
I hate that I missed last week. I like to talk about aliens too. So.
Yeah. Well, we got some good ones tonight, so buckle up. Hey, welcome to the show. Aliens. Allison, it is great to have you. Tell us who you are and what you're mostly known for.
Well, I'm Allison the Alley Cat. I draw comics, other such things. Probably the resident highly skeptical person.
Great. We need those too. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Next
up,
up,
I don't ruin the fun.
No, you'll be good. Next up, Alan Silverwood. Welcome to the show, Alan.
Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing well.
What am I known for? I used to be an editor on staff at Marvel Comics in a previous life, and I currently do comics, novels. I've written for Mattel for Hot Wheels. I edit for different novelists, and basically kind of doing a lot of different things here and there. But these days, mostly, I think, the comics and the novels.
Well, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Next up, Joe. We finally got together, Joe. Let's take a second and tell the viewers who you are.
Yes, finally. I know, delayed since last summer, right? But yeah, my name is Joe Solis. My wife, Sarah Childs, and I own Child's Play Comics. Used to be retail spot owners for a couple of years before the pandemic, and then switched over to indie comics during the pandemic when we had our son and we were pretty much trapped in our house the whole time. Right. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm known for being very prepared. So I brought my ghost trap. I'm unofficial Ghostbuster. So nice. I didn't know what to expect. You just said ghosts, and I was just like, I won't be ready for anything. So
thanks so much for coming, Joe. It's great to have you here.
Thanks.
Next up, Doran Corkum. It's great to see you, Doran. Tell the viewers who you are.
Yeah, I'm an indie comic book creator for Whitefire Comics. I have 2 comic series, Raquel and The Forsaken Future, on the go right now. And that's pretty well my whole thing. I do it all: art, lettering, coloring, the whole scope of things to create a comic book, and then work with a lot of great people around the world doing it. And Joe, I had my... Oh, wait a second. Oh, I had a trap too. Yeah, so we're ready, man. We're ready.
They never said you can't cross the stream, so can you cross traps?
Oh, geez, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
We'll find out tonight.
Well, I can tell you, we got some great ones coming up here. And without further delay, let's dive right in, because some of these images, I'm not sure what to make of them. So we're going to get all the smart kids together and see what we can make of them. The first one, this is our number 12. This is the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall. It was taken in 1936. Arguably one of the most famous ghost photos, mostly because it was one of the first ones to get popular back in the late 30s. C. Michael Lanning, what do you make of this thing? Is the Brown Lady real?
Oh, is it real? I don't know. Looks like, I guess we consider it a lady because I guess there's kind of a dress happening. I mean, why are we saying? Why did they call it a lady exactly? Because it looks like a shroud or something more than anything, huh?
Well, and there's a little lore to go with it. I guess I'll just touch on this. It's allegedly the ghost of this Lady Dorothy Townsend, whose husband caught her being unfaithful, and he had locked her in a room and left her there to die. Many people had seen this apparition over the years, and this person was, again, allegedly the first one to snap a photo of it. So let's move it over to Allie. I know you got some opinions on this one. Allison, what is it?
Okay. This photo is very famous and very fake. One of the things about it is, first of all, it's the Virgin Mary. It is literally a statue or some type of piece of the Virgin Mary. If you look very closely, she's shrouded. She has her hands like in prayer. If you look close at it, the other thing about it is it's double exposure. You can tell this by taking a look at the background of where the stairs is. There's a little bit of extra light over the stairs, which is very common in a double exposure. And the photo is actually cropped from the original photo that was first published in 1936. You can't see the whole thing. The top part, the lights coming down, there's a bit more to that, and there's actually a double photo in the top corner. The other thing is the light in the banister, the way the reflection is wrong.
Good point. I think it does look kind of Virgin Mary-ish. And by the way, Sarah has a great point there too. We talked about this last week in the sense that emotional, how do I want to say this? Love can make people see strange things.
Lore can strange things. The lore about this is actually, the background story from what people know is mostly true. They don't really know the cause of her death. But yeah, the unfaithfulness, being locked in a room and all that. And there's rumors she was thrown down the stairs, a bunch of other things. The first sighting of the ghost, though, wasn't until 100 years after the death. And then you have this photograph that showed up a little bit later.
Yeah, and it was, I guess, according to the bio, she was buried in 1726. So I don't know if, Doran, what do you make of this? You think this could be a ghost? Is it a double exposure? Admittedly, photographic manipulation, pretty rare for 1936.
Not really.
Well, what they do, the tricks of the trade for the double exposure is pretty interesting. This does kind of reek a little bit to me of the double exposure, like Ali's kind of saying. Look at all the brightness on the right side of the screen, then you can see some kind of huge light effect at the top, like someone's flashing some kind of light. But why is the left side of the stairs dark in consistency and the left side dark, right side bright? It almost doesn't make sense. I can see the glare from the light up above being shined super hard, like they're almost projecting something. Yeah, whether it's a mirror reflection, some kind of, and the scale of a person doesn't make sense to me, honestly, on the set of stairs. She seems small. Yeah, she seems tiny to me to be a person, a full-size human.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense too. Joe, what's your 2 cents on the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall?
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if I can go after Ali tonight because she already convinced me before. I was like, I have loved all that information. But so I'll share something a little bit different. I want to say that the first time I saw this was probably in 5th grade in some sort of haunted book, like not a haunted book, but a book about ghosts. And because I've vividly remember this image. And so that's kind of the different thing for me, is that being a kid and being like, whoa, what is this? Like, I have a different tie to this picture, I think, than most people. And no, I really did enjoy hearing that, Ali, because I think it made me realize that I had too much emotion attached to this from being a kid. And I'm like, believing it from that long ago that, yeah, that looks real to me,
Well, it convinced a lot of people. I mean, being fooled by something is not something to be like, oh. I mean, the big thing about anything that's supernatural is first you have to rule out everything that's potentially natural. And you can say, I don't know. I've seen a few things in my life that I have no idea what it was. But I'm not about to say it's a ghost or a devil or whatever else.
I can respect that. But let's hear from Alan. We didn't hear from him on this one. Alan, what do you make of the Brown Lady? Do you think it's an overexposure, first of all, or excuse me, a double exposure?
Yeah, I'm on the skeptic bandwagon. I like to think of myself as an open-minded skeptic, but the open-minded doesn't come into the belief that spirits of the dead walk among us, kind of thing. I don't believe that. I believe that there is some kind of phenomenon that we have not explained. It's fun to call it supernatural. I think it's just natural that we don't understand yet. And whatever that is, when we have these experiences and these things. And I've had several. I've done ghost chasing. So I've had some pretty unusual things that I can't explain. In fact, I sent you a picture of something that I've got that has never been explained. But, I look at these and I was just watching a Lucy, do you know Lucy Worsley? She does these, she's British, and she does these documentaries about different figures in history. And she just did one on Arthur Conan Doyle. And of course, as you know, he got into the spiritualists and everything. And he was really into a lot of the stuff. And at one point they had pulled out some pictures, and you were looking at a lot of these pictures that were double exposures. This is exactly what they all kind of look like. Some more obviously than this even. But yeah, this is pretty classic.
Yeah.
So can I ask something just so I could clarify? Because I've heard two of y'all say this so far. What exactly does it mean when y'all say double exposure? What does that mean was done to the actual picture?
Allison, you can take that one.
Okay, so when you take a photo with a traditional camera, you would roll back the film and stop it from moving forward or let it move forward a little bit. And then you take another photo with you in a different position that imprints the photo on the back and it gives a ghostly look.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually did this in high school. We actually created what's called a pin camera. We created our own cameras out of a cardboard box, and we did double exposure work, just like Allison said. And we were doing this all the time. Not quite like this, but very close in the idea of expose it once. You don't have to move the film in this case, and then expose it a second time to the light for X amount of
So
time.
then if you had the original film, would it be very obvious that that's what happened? Like if you were looking at
the original film,
it's actually not obvious at all.
Yeah.
No.
And the original film isn't always involved in double exposure too. It's a piece of paper, right?
I'm a little into photography.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, do we have information on who took the photograph?
Yes, and that's why I'm going to take the final word on this one. I'm going to call this one a hoax, and I'm going to tell you why. See, Michael Lanning knows that my favorite question to ask about aliens, typically, and hoaxes is why? Why would somebody do it? Why would someone do this in 1936? What sticks out in my mind, they had seen this spirit a number of times, allegedly, these witnesses. But the photo was taken by two photographers from Life magazine.
Yep.
So if you were analyzing a crime, they had the means, they knew how to make a double exposure, and the motive. They wanted to sell more magazines.
Yep.
So I think in this case, it seems like we've reached a consensus. The brown lady is a hoax.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because even looking at it, I have to agree. It looks like the Virgin Mary, very much so. Yeah,
it sure does. It sure does.
Yeah.
Okay, let's step it up to the next one. This is the excuse me, it's slightly out of order. The Spectre of Newby Church.
Oh God,
this one. Yeah, this is super creepy.
I'll agree with that. It is creepy looking.
Yeah, see, Michael Lanning, what do you make of the Spectre of Newby Church?
No, I think this one's a hoax. I don't think this one's real at all.
Now, I will tell you, before we go into that, one of the things in all the reports, supposedly it's been scrutinized by photo experts who say that it is not a double exposure. I don't know what that means, but it does say that in the release. So with that in mind, what do you say?
They were really good at what they were doing. That's what I'm going to say. Because to me, it seems too clear. Because I could see the eyes. It looks like a hood, right? It looks like a hood with eyes cut out, and then it's wearing a cloak. The only thing I could say that if I was going to give it validity is how tall it is. That's a pretty tall guy. But they could have been standing on a chair or what have you whenever they took the photo to begin with to blend it in. So, yeah, I've seen this one before. It never quite convinced me that it was anything other than fake. So. Yeah,
it's almost too good. That is why it sometimes gets criticized.
Yeah.
Allison, you're up next. What do you make of the Spectre of Newby Church? Is it a hoax?
Yeah, it's Pepper's ghost.
All reflected glass, right?
Yeah. And it's
for those of us that don't know, explain a little bit what Pepper's ghost is.
Okay, so it was made popular by a guy named Pepper, hence why it's Pepper's ghost.
I have enjoyed his soda quite a bit.
Dr. Pepper.
One of my favorites too.
Yes, relation probably. But anyway, basically the guy would, you'd set up with a mirror and you have somebody standing off mirror, reflect light through it, and it would cast an image, basically a hologram. One of the most famous places that does this is Disney World and Disneyland with the Haunted Mansion. When you go through the ballroom sequence, it's all achieved with Pepper's ghost basically being broadcast over the dummies and animatronics that are just out of view. But if you look closely and it's lit a bit, you can see it all. I think this is a case of Pepper's ghost. There's a mannequin or something that's like propped up on something and it's basically draped over. Because the background story to this is that it's supposed to be some friar that had leprosy or something from the bubonic plague. And this place wasn't built in that area until like the 1800s. So it's like there was no friars there or anything fitting in the history of where this place was. The history does not match. It was supposedly taken by a revenant. Now, he could have been trying to get worshipers in and be like, this is what happens if you don't worship the great Lord. It is creepy. I'll give it that. But I think it's
Yeah,
pepper.
I guess the measurements, according to the release, it says church was built in 1870, and the specter clocks in at around 9 feet tall, which seems a little
Whoa.
unusual.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm going to save the part about the reverend for right now.
It's also
Doran,
it also could be a guy standing on a prayer pillow thing, because that would make you substantially bigger.
let me ask you this question: the Pepper's ghost. This is just a question. I'm not saying yes or no. Is there any way? Is there any visual tell if something is Pepper's ghost, like a piece of glass, or how would we know?
I'm just getting it from kind of the quasi look of it, of how clear
Gotcha.
it is. It reminds me very much of a Pepper's ghost. Like this,
Okay.
just I've done the Pepper's ghost effect and taken pictures of it, and it looks kind of like that.
Gotcha. But so to answer the question, though, there really isn't a way to tell from the photo.
Immediately with my quick eye look, no.
Right.
I mean, I have to,
Okay.
if I studied it for a bit longer, I might be able to come up with something else. But the lighting,
I just wondered if there was
But-
like
but
a
that-
shadow or a
that's-
lighting type
That's
thing.
what I was kind of wondering.
Well, there's
as
no
far as,
shadow.
lighting is concerned. Yeah, there was no shadow, but with an illusion like that, isn't there usually kind of a differentiation of the light over the
Yeah,
image versus
it's
the
black and
background?
white.
And how you
Black
would
and white
do
photo,
it.
though,
Yeah.
it's not that hard for something like that to not show up very well.
How bright this room is interesting too, because it just doesn't
Yeah.
match to me the character itself.
Yeah. So, Doran, you're up. What do you make of the specter of Newbie Church? Is it real or is it a hoax?
I like it. I want to be a believer, but this one leaves me skeptical. It looks to me, with my professional image editing background, like an image editing one. A couple things that makes it look like that to me is how clear the white is showing through in the middle of his left side of his body. You can see the kind of white tassel. It's odd that shoots out so much if this is in front of it. And the second part is how I've done this before and created it, and it looked like this when I've done work before, how hard the line is around his outer edge, particularly at the bottom of his gown. See where there's like a little tiny edge on the bottom of it, on the bottom step in the middle of it? That's typical image editing mistakes with the anti-aliasing not matching the actual original photograph. So they didn't use a cloning tool to clone it in. It looks pretty bad to me from an image editing perspective. It looks obvious.
Well, and of course, you're talking about 1963 too, so it isn't like there weren't necessarily.
So that's what I was going to ask. When was?
Yeah.
Are we 100% sure this was created in 1963?
I believe it
everything
is.
tells me it isn't.
Well, it's
what
an
the
older
release says.
photo. I mean, I'll go with you in the image editing stuff. It is. I'm going off of how I would do it in the 60s. So
Yeah. Would they have cut something out, and maybe that would have caused that edge at the bottom? That edge at the bottom is the killer for me. That this is not.
oh yeah,
real.
no, it's there's
Yeah.
definitely disruption down there. But I was going off the impression it is from the 60s. I'd have to take a look at the province on it again. But I
Yeah,
think
there
it
wouldn't
is-
have been image editing then.
One of the things that's
Yeah.
worth noting, of this reverend, when he took the photo, he wasn't taking a photo of a spirit. He was taking a photo of the organ. Of course, they didn't see this till the film was developed.
That's what I
So
always-
let's move it over to Joe. Joe, the specter of Newbie Church, is it real or is it a hoax?
Well, I mean, obviously a hoax from what everybody's saying. But the only thing that threw me off originally, especially after one of y'all said that it was the proportion is supposed to make it about 9 feet tall, that really threw me off. But I think it's because that's a tabernacle in the background, right?
Mhm.
I think at first my mind went to that's a coffin. So I think the size made sense to me when I first thought that. But then as I realized what it was, I was like, yeah, that's definitely off. So.
Gotcha. And I'm not sure if the fact of it being 9 feet tall is necessarily a kick out. Move it over to Alan. Alan, the specter of Newbie Church, is it real or is
to
it
me,
a hoax?
it was all about the proportion. It reeks of someone having manipulated it to make this look taller than it actually is. I would say that's the actual full person size. I don't think anyone's standing on anything, but I think that it's been manipulated like somehow so that it appears larger. However they put this in, they did something to make it look larger. Either something was closer to the camera or they just put it in at a different size. It didn't match. It didn't match the proportions of the background. And that stands out. Plus, like you said, all of the white stuff, the mask and the edging. There's an awful lot of stuff here that just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
If I could throw in two more cents on it too, like about the fading in of the images. Sometimes people don't know they're creating these situations. We created them by mistake in the lab when we were developing film, not realizing the film was used before and then it got used a second time and it wasn't our film and something else was on it. And then when you expose it, something like this could happen. And then you're like, oh, what happened here? Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's expand on that just a hair. That was Doran. Was that you saying that point?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this question, and I'm going to give you the final word here. So it could have been an unintentional hoax. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's a manipulation of the person who developed the film. So it's not that the person didn't take the picture the way they said. The person who developed the film is really the culprit, could be the culprit sometimes, trying to make some kind, oh, it's a church thing. I don't believe in this. Let's put a thing in here too. Yeah. Yeah. There's another factor that a lot of people don't talk about, but there's the person who developed the film could be the culprit, not necessarily the person who took the picture.
Took the picture.
Like a hoax that started in Boston years ago with a guy. It was like 1800s. He used to take spirit photos of people. There was always ghosts in the background, and what he wasn't doing was clearing the plates.
So it was still all there, so you could prove it. Yeah.
So it basically, he had a whole arsenal of ghosts that he could put in. And when people started noticing these ghosts walking around the city of Boston, he then moved to New York and did it, where he was later prosecuted. So,
in my case, I think I'm the only one that's going to take the pro on this one, in the sense that, how do I want to say this? First of all, it'd be really odd for a clergyman to, see, Michael Lanning, you know what I'm going to say right here.
Yeah.
The principal underpinning of the hoax is why. And I don't think that a man of the cloth would propose a hoax in the sense of getting more followers. If he would, that wouldn't be like too many clergymen I ever met. And the other thing, it was allegedly analyzed by these photo experts who said it was not those things. That's one of the reasons why it's so famous. And you would think that after 80 years, excuse my terrible math, that's actually more like 65 years, that it would have come up at least once. Hey, I made that hoax photo that's been so famous for the last 60 years.
No,
it's like the Iceman. Yeah, some people just don't want to. They love getting you.
And a reverend basically saying that something's definitely real, something like that. Everybody lies. I mean, I can easily, priest lying is not an uncommon thing.
Well, so, I don't think the reason I would say I don't think he did it would be, I don't think this would bring me to church. If I knew that thing was running around the church, I would go to a different church. There's lots of other church options. Like, okay,
especially when you're dealing with
for a little bit, but that's not making me popular. That's like, get me out of here, right? You're only attracting the paranormal crowd.
Especially when you're dealing with the Catholic faith, when the church is supposed to be a sacred place. So
yeah, it wouldn't. You instantly think demon. You usually think evil is in that church. Do I want to be around that?
I wouldn't. I kind of like the idea better that it's somebody maybe playing a prank on the Reverend more than the Reverend being malicious in this. So
yeah, that does make a little more sense. It's, and again, we don't ever know the motivations of the people. No. But sometimes to ascribe a somewhat sinister motivation, you have to ask why, because it doesn't necessarily stand the test of the scrutiny of why they would have done it. But let's move this one over. I would say on that one, it seems like we reached a consensus that one's a hoax. But I think I'm going to keep the pro on that one. Let's move over to number 14, the Combermere Abbey Library Ghost, allegedly taken in 1891. This one is a little bit of a less high quality photograph, but you can see it kind of has the image of the fella in the chair there. See, Michael Lanning, is the Combermere Abbey Library Ghost a fake?
No, I don't think it's a fake. I just think it's what people seem to see. They're just putting it together, like you see faces on the walls.
Pareidolia?
Yes, exactly. So, because look at it's definitely a horrible picture. It's just, there's bright lights.
I bet if
everywhere.
you organize all the photos taken in 1891, I bet you this would be one of the best
pretty
ones.
Good. Yeah, probably a pretty good one times.
The photo
was
ability
pretty impressed. Yeah.
So see, this is, to you think it's just a bad photo, correct?
I think it might be just a bad photo.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's hear from Allison on this one. Allison, what do you make of it? A quick bit of lore. Allegedly taken on the day of his funeral. He was struck by a horse and carriage. Does that change your perspective of anything you see here?
No, it's either pareidolia or it's somebody didn't clear the slate.
Gotcha. It's an interesting thing. You talk about 1891. I didn't even realize they were having photos taken at the time.
not
Photos
probably
go
isn't on
back
film.
really far.
Go back to the Civil War. You had Matthew
Yeah.
Brady taking pictures all over the Civil War battlefields, and that's in the
You have
1860s.
to,
Those were
and
beautiful.
the thing about those is you have to sit really still for a long period of time with
That's
the
what
older.
I'm saying.
You got to stay really close, really long. So if you move, it kind of creates that little bit of a blurriness you're seeing on the person who's kind of faded. Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's a,
Dorn, what's your 2 cents? You think in 1861, or excuse me, this is 1891. I misspoke. Would somebody have wanted to make a hoax back then? They probably would, right?
There's a lot going. There's a lot of things. Witchcraft. Look at witchcraft. There's. I want to talk about a lot of hoax where they trapped people and killed people over certain behaviors because they didn't fit in. There's lots of different things that they could. I don't know on this one. This one I'm a little more on the fence. It does kind of look like an overexposure to me. A second exposure, like someone did, as Allison's saying, someone didn't clear the plates, possibly just because I could picture him having legs going straight down is the only reason. But I'm actually on the fence on this one. I didn't really see this one too much, and just because of the age of the photo, it's really hard for me to get any solid. Like his fist almost looks real, like it's been exposed to a really high level, but his face is really faded and the rest looks like a ghost. So I don't get that. And the fact that he has no legs, like his legs look like they would go right down through the chair, making it a double exposure.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. It's kind of a cool one.
His face is also on there twice.
On this one, because I want to believe, but I don't know.
It'd be a very small man, right? I mean, the proportions.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to, because
that either. Yeah,
either that or a really big chair.
His torso's going through the base of the chair. If you think about how someone sits.
Yeah.
Sarah S. in the comments. I would love to hear, Sarah, if you want to toss in there why you would not rule this one out. Please share your thoughts there. We're going to move. Did we hear from Joe? I don't think we heard from Joe. Joe, is it real or is it a hoax?
Well, my first question is, what is that's right going through his face? Looks like a pole. Is that part of the picture, like the physical picture, or was that an item in the room?
I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure. It looks like it could be a lamp or some kind of stand.
Yeah, from what I could see on some of these other pictures, it's a lamp.
Because it's just weird that it seems to cut off. I don't see too much of anything on the other side, and if you want to follow what they were saying was that it was the day of his funeral. Well, then my first question to them was, does it even look like him? Was he a older bearded man? In
the report, the family says it looks like him. And supposedly they were astonished because they were all at the funeral. Again, this was something that didn't happen till later. And again, supposedly they said it took an hour to take the photo, which I guess that's actually in line because it took, time in those days.
Yeah. Yeah. You had to sit really super still. They told you.
Yeah.
So
Alan, you get the next. Alan, you get the.
That's right.
If it took an hour for that, what would happen with that old technology if somebody disrupted the hour, just for a moment or something?
Well,
Alan, I think you're going to get the final word here on the Combermere Abbey library ghost.
That's pretty much what I'm getting. Is it? Yeah, I was shown. I'll tell you a story. I was shown a picture. It was like a really broad angle picture that was taken. I was shown this by the actress who played. Do you know the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
Of course.
The kid who played Zuzu, I met her a few years ago, and she showed me this picture she had from a picture they took of the cast. It was one of those long exposure scenes, and it's the cast that they took. They took a shot of the whole cast outside. And in this picture, this long, wide picture, you have Jimmy Stewart on the left end, and you have him on the right end. He was able to stand there long enough to get into the picture while they were taking this long, slow picture, run around to the other side and get in that picture before the picture was over so that he appears on both ends of the picture. Yep. So this is the kind of thing that people could do with slow exposure, with long exposure pictures, is that you can leave an imprint, part of an imprint, whatever, that doesn't reflect reality.
Interesting.
I could see the photographer screwing up these things sometimes too. Oh, I was working today. It's probably really expensive for these pieces of film. I started one, it went south, but I didn't delete or didn't get rid of this piece of paper or whatever at the time, the slate, whatever. And then they accidentally reuse it and then create a situation like this.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that one. And thanks, too, for the commenters. This is very interesting. Like I say, I don't know the answer, so I'm always interested in trying to find out what they were. But I got a pretty interesting one to show you next. This one is called the Railroad Crossing Ghost. And allegedly, I always start by saying allegedly, but I want to set you up with a little bit of lore, which supposedly there's some place at a railroad tracks where there were some children that were killed there. And it's something to the effect of, your car can move, or if they're pushing on the bumper of your car. And some photographers, Andy and Deborah Chesney, if you want their names, allegedly were taking photos of the site. And it seemed to show a little girl holding a teddy bear. C. Michael Lanning, what do you make of the Railroad Crossing Ghost?
I feel like this is one of those old ghosts from the Casper cartoons. It doesn't. It looks very what you would generically think a ghost would look like, right? With the white sheet and everything. I don't see a teddy bear. Not in this picture, but I know about this place. I've seen researchers go to this railroad before, and it pushes their car over the railroad.
Right.
Yep.
And there's been some
Like
that put powder on the back of their car, and they've seen little
Yep.
handprints and stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as nobody's ever said that they've seen a ghost, so this is new to me. Is that a teddy bear? Maybe.
I don't quite see that. And the other report says, and first of all, I'm just telling you what the reports say. I don't always believe it. But other readers stated that it looked a little bit like a little girl with a dog sitting at her feet. And I kind of don't get a dog from that image. And here you have sort of a curious intertwining of a ghost photograph and an urban legend.
Yeah.
It's an unusual concurrence, right?
What light is hitting the okay, so this is taken at night. So what light is hitting that railroad sign?
Exactly.
Probably the flash. It's probably the flash of the camera.
Yeah.
The
Could be the
flash.
flash, could be a train, could be a car.
Could be.
It's probably the flash.
Yeah.
Allison, what do you make of the you got a final thought there? See, I don't want to cut you.
Yeah, I really, this one does not sell me at all. I'm not necessarily a huge skeptic, but this one doesn't sell me at all. Really.
Okay. All right.
There's something on the lens.
Something on the lens.
Oh.
Hadn't considered that. Okay.
It looks like somebody spit on the lens or something.
I will admit it does look kind of like a little miniature Casper. Maybe it's just coincidental that it had to be
Paranoia.
at this place. Again, just like all of them, the photographers swear that they were not hoaxing, blah, blah, blah.
Most of those places where the car goes over the tracks and all that stuff, and they put it in neutral, it's because there's actually an incline in the hill that they don't notice.
Right.
And the little handprints, when they put the dust down and all that, when the car moves, these vibration things happen. It's called physics. And things spread out a bit, and people look at it, it looks like little handprints.
And there's magnetic hills too. I wonder if there's a magnetic component
Yeah, that's what I
to
was
some of
thinking.
these things.
Yeah, that one seems like a stretch to me.
Not
I'll
typically
see
in
if
that
I can
case.
dig up the photo, but I did see the photo of the handprints, and
What I've seen,
they
what
look
I've
like
seen is
handprints.
it goes up and over. So I was thinking more on the magnetic side of that too, Doran, than an incline. Because even this, you can
Usually-
see that it looks like it's
Usually it's
going up.
because people think it's going up, but it's really not.
Well, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
magnetic hill
It
back
was
home.
the one part that we know is true is I'll just take a quick second and mention how this ties into see Michael Lanning and I sometimes talk about what we call the psychic ether theory, which is where particularly violent incidents leave an impression in the environment. And this was the site of these children being killed in this bus crash. So that's the part that we supposedly did happen. These other things are all conjecture.
I want proof
Doran
that actually happened before I'll believe anything.
yeah, like all things. Doran, what do you make of the railroad crossing ghost?
To me, the skewing looks wrong of the character. If I was working on this as a photograph, I instantly want to yank it to the left to skew it straighter. The angle seems wrong, and the shadow to the right of it is broken, which I don't think a ghost would do. It's a ghost; it wouldn't cast a shadow. So that type of stuff is kind of throwing me off. But I don't know. I mean, if I was a religious person, I'm sure what they would be saying, well, demons want you to be skeptical. It's all part of the plan, right? So the demonic want you to be manipulated. So it's interesting to think on this one. I really don't have 100% answer, but it looks image edited to me in the sense that it should be skewed left and there's a shadow on it.
Right.
Do we know what year this was? Was this a new? This looks like
the photo was taken in the accident, according to the San Antonio Express, was in 1938, and
so before image editing again. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I mean, the cutout you can still cut things out, kind of. Yeah.
I don't know when that photo was taken.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Else.
That part I don't know, but it is a color photo. So
the other thing we did to mention this,
the incident happened beforehand.
We used to do something called pasteboarding. It's how you make newspapers back in the day and things like that. So it's the old way before you had computers, and you would pasteboard something on top of something else and then expose it to your film. I could see some, possibly something like that happening as well. Yeah. But I don't know on this one. I'd be like, again, 50-50. I don't know.
Yeah. It's I'm skeptical of things that are urban legends. So, there doesn't seem to be any case of the photographers making money from it, which, is kind of my kick out in most scenarios. Alan, I think I'm going to give you the final word on the railroad crossing ghost.
I mean, there's a lot of things here that give me pause. I'm not understanding why there's a certain amount of light in certain places on this. That, like, why would the light be shining down on the ghost? Why would that work? And I'm not even sure that we can make out. I mean, it kind of looks like a figure, of course, but it could be a smear. It feels like it's separate from the entire background, like it could be something on the lens. It doesn't feel like it's in the area. That I just don't think that it's there.
I'm going to see if I can blow it up.
Hey, Tim, I was going to say this is actually 30 minutes south from where I am.
Oh, no kidding. You're in Texas?
Yep.
The other thing about
I've heard that story my whole life of this.
The other thing about that paper and all that, I want an actual shot of it, not one from a ghost site.
Gotcha. I was going to ask this question. Do you
I
think
just want to check the provenance?
Yeah, sure. Provenance. Do you think that if you look at this one, it also seems kind of like the right edge is harder edged than the left edge? Alan, do you think that means anything?
It absolutely could. I'm not sure because it does kind of blur out toward the left, and it is hard on the right. But again, that there's stuff in the background there that whatever we're seeing here is maybe blending into, that makes that a little bit more hard to tell where the edge is on that side. There's something lighter in the background there, whereas the right side is pretty dark and easy to differentiate. It kind of would blend into the background of whatever's here on the left. I don't know if that's like a sidewalk or something over there.
Now,
almost like the gravel on the side of the road. Yeah.
Something like
the asphalt disappears too. Like, look at the dash. The asphalt's very prominent in the front with a glare on it, and it just disappears when you go forward wherever the ghost is. It just disappears. That's kind of very sus.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things about the way this is positioned and the way it appears. To me, it is not connected to that background, which just blows it out for me.
Now there is if you take Snopes and what they say, that there really isn't an accident that was reported there. There was one in Salt Lake City, Utah, where the 26 children lost their lives, but no similar accident took place in San Antonio. Mm-hmm. But in that 1938, that city was subjected to about 10 days worth of gruesomely detailed coverage in its local newspaper of the Salt Lake City crash. So
Gotcha.
Maybe it's an implanted memory that haunts that railroad.
Okay.
Well, that's a common thing with a lot of ghost stories, is basically where's the lore come from? Like the town, Dudleytown in Connecticut, it's like notorious for all these hauntings and things there. But if you actually look at the actual history and not what's in the ghost books, It does not line up in the slightest.
And there's also something to be said for, we've noticed, especially tonight, that, how do I want to say this? That the ghost photos, even sometimes by well-meaning people, tend to accompany some type of societal trauma, either from an event, like we had one where the guy was hit by a carriage, one where there was allegedly this kids hit by a bus, which maybe the trauma is influencing their perceptions.
Kind of like seeing Jesus in your coffee cup.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The Virgin Mary's on my toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
That'd be a heck of a breakfast. Your toast with the cup with Virgin Mary and Jesus.
Like, I got Jesus and the Virgin Mary.
That'd be a good breakfast.
Up, it moved. It's now the devil.
All right, you ready? Got a good one for you. And this one, I was intentionally trying to find one that couldn't really be a double exposure. This is sometimes called Robert Ferguson's ghost. And again, I always give you the allegedly, because I want to hear what you guys think. Allegedly, this guy was given a speech. And again, they didn't see the photo until the next day or however many days. But when he saw the photo, he claims that this is his brother, Robert Ferguson's brother, sort of materializing behind him, the brother having been killed in World War II in 1944. So we'll start off with C. Michael Lanning. Is Robert Ferguson's ghost real?
Yes, because he moved really fast and that's how the camera caught him. Because it looks just like him. I mean, if you look at, it's not even behind him, right? If you follow the tie and the jacket, it goes over him, and it looks just like him. And if you're brothers and you have a lot of similar features, that's what you kind of. I think it's a little wishful thinking, right? I think
again, you think it's the trauma is influencing Robert's perception?
Exactly. I don't think that it's necessarily a hoax, but I think somebody moved at a quick enough pace that the camera kind of caught that blur. That in between. This looks like it was at a lecture or something like that, where he probably moved it over the podium and then came real back trying to make a point or whatever, and it just kind of caught it that way. Or somebody, it could be two pictures again moved. Like
in this case, again, I'm just telling you what they say allegedly. It may seem to be a double exposure or some type of dark room trickery, but the photo was a Polaroid, one of several taken at the time, making any hoaxing somewhat unlikely. So let's move it over to Allison. Allison, what do you think? Is this one a double exposure or fake, or what do you make of it?
I mean, the first glance at it's double exposure. I want more proof that's a Polaroid. Before I'll say anything like that. And to say you can't fake something with a Polaroid, well, if you have somebody in black background in the back, it's easy to superimpose stuff. And this guy, also I want to know how long the aperture was open on it. If it's a Polaroid, it shouldn't be. But when was Polaroid instant film done?
Well, this one I believe is 1968.
Okay, and why doesn't the ghost have anything better to do? And on top of that, why is he not wearing military dress if he died during World War II?
That goes into
wearing
the whole
suit, a shirt and tie.
My whole theory of would you be older if you were a ghost? Would you be younger? Why would we think we're stuck in the same state when we're a ghost? Which I bring into my story.
I'm just going off of I'm just going off the concept of he died wearing this. Did he stop to get changed?
He has his tie on in the picture as well. Like there's
that's why I said
suit on.
Basically in a suit. I'm thinking it's the same guy. I think he moved too quickly.
Well, one of the points in the there was other researchers, of course, have looked at this, and they said, well, if you look at the guys, they really don't look alike. One's face is wider, and the ears are definitely different.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe, let's move over to Joe.
I've seen it in between
animation. Dorn, did I get you? I didn't want to skip you.
No, but I stuck my nose into the other one. But the only comment I would make on this one would be, it's definitely not behind him. The scale of the person is larger in front.
Yes.
So you can tell that it's not the same. It's not the movement thing. I don't think it's a movement thing. It'll almost seem like to me like an exposure of the same piece of film twice of a different two different poses. One that maybe they stopped early for some reason, or the film got exposed, some kind of issue there, and then the film got reused in some fashion. That's what it looks like to me.
Is that something that can happen with the Polaroid?
Not
According to the
necessarily with a
researchers, that is
Polaroid.
the words they said. And of course, I'm not really a photo guy, but supposedly it's impossible to do with a Polaroid. Let's move it over to
What-
Joe.
yeah.
Joe, I hesitated to tell the other guys this because I wanted to get some different answers. There's something you should know about Robert Ferguson. I'm going to answer Sarah's question. He was speaking in front of a group. Robert Ferguson was what they called a spiritualist, and he was speaking at an event called Psychic Telemetry, a New Key to Health, Wealth, and Perfect Living, which I got to be honest, makes it sound a little bit to me like a kook.
Do
What
they
do you
have
make of it?
T-shirts with that? Because I want one. No, what it really looks like, yeah, because if they're trying to say brothers or whatever, the ghost looks like a different scale, and that it almost looks like that's a different picture of somebody who was posing versus the guy who's giving the speech is in action. So he has the more awkward face you would get from somebody who's not ready for a picture, versus the other one looks like he was posing for something more professional.
It's a good point.
I
That's a
looked
good
into the
point.
Polaroid Instant Camera. It was made in 1969. It was called the Polaroid Instant Color Camera. There was no black and white ones.
Oh, gotcha. So let's see who.
But I mean, if it was, but there was never a black and white Polaroid camera.
There was plenty of black and white Polaroid cameras, but there were no instant cameras. So you can fake a Polaroid camera because it's using traditional film. So,
okay.
Yeah, and these cameras don't even have film. Some of these older ones, right? That's film is out of the equation. It's film. It's a photo paper. Or stuff like
and
that. Yeah.
you can easily do stuff with photo paper very, very easily too, in developing and stuff like that. So,
Gotcha. Alan, I believe it's your turn. First off, do you think this is the same person in the two images?
I don't think it's the same person. I think it's definitely a picture that was taken separately, like a double exposure or something. It's very the scale thing I had noticed as well, and it's just completely. It is very, very similar to what you see with double exposure type of things. I would have called it double exposure right away. I have no reason to think. And you talk about spiritualists; they were adamant about proving they were right about things. So I absolutely wouldn't put it past them to fake something.
Yeah.
And I would sense that, and again, that's where I have a problem with this one, because where I tend to draw the line is there potentially any financial gain or anything like that? And maybe somebody like a spiritualist, they could get a little bit of juice out of this, maybe additional news coverage, anything like that.
They were very hoaxy.
Were they? Can you give another, for instance,
Yeah.
Alan?
Well, when they started their mediums, they started with mediums and stuff doing shows. They were taking advantage of people who had lost loved ones, and they were having these seance type of things, and they absolutely made up all kinds of things. Harry Houdini is famous for debunking them, going after them vehemently to debunk the spiritualist movement, because there was so much stuff and they were trying to fraud. And he had this thing with his mother, and they would try to do his mother speaking to him, and they would do all the wrong things. And he would be like, that's not my mother. My mother didn't speak English, and this person is speaking English. My mother was Jewish, and this person's, they use like a cross symbol and stuff, all of this stuff. And that was the battle between Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle, because Doyle, whose son had just died at the end of World War II from influenza, was just really clinging to the whole idea of the spiritualism. But Houdini, on the other hand, was out to debunk all these fraudulent mediums and stuff who were taking advantage of people's, basically their pain, to get money from them to do these things, and say that, oh, here's your loved one speaking to you, and all of this. And there was just an awful lot of chicanery.
Great word.
He and his wife, they were in a town during like a carnival or something like that when they were doing an act, and there was rumored that somebody got murdered in the town. There's rumored that there were certain people in this town that were involved, and they played up that it might have been them, that they're being contacted by the ghost of these people, and Houdini saw what it did to the crowd and everything, and almost got a couple of guys lynched who may or may not have had anything to do with this. And that's when Houdini started to really investigate this stuff. I mean, when
He
I was
was
with the Society of
militant.
American Magicians, we used Houdini's techniques to debunk things. I mean, literally, there's a manual that's basically his techniques we use to debunk, any type of ghost hauntings, things like that. There was one guy who actually had he put a speaker system into his wall to try to convince us that there was noises and ghost-like things. It was like, are you going to fool 6 or 7 magicians? Like going into a place, like we will figure it out.
Some people think they're smarter than they are with some of that stuff. Yeah, it's interesting to see how humans will try and manipulate other humans. An example of something that's not exactly directly related is when I was gaming for a long period of time, I found a guy at work who cheated, and he just loved lying about the fact that he cheated when it was obvious, just to get a rise out of people, right? So I wonder if the same type of mentality can be translated back to these people. They're never going to admit they're doing something wrong. They're just going to love to get the rise out of you.
It's just for
Control.
kicks sometimes. That's the whole motivation right there.
Yep.
It's not even about money sometimes. Sometimes it's just for kicks. It's like, it's just to be able to put something over on someone. Some people get a thrill out of just that.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be monetary gain, right? It's sometimes people are doing it just to have it. Now, the one thing that, and C. Michael Lanning and I talk about this a lot, people's motivations can do a lot of things. So I agree with that. But I don't think that necessarily excludes the fact that there are many things in the world that we don't understand. So what we have to do is, like what Allison says, is to provide as much science as we can to try and debunk it. As they say, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains spill out.
Yeah,
Open-minded skeptic. It's my turn.
It's stressed enough that you have to literally eliminate everything that's possible. And that's like, persons like saying they had like some strange encounter with, aliens kidnapping them and all that. Well, you got to rule out that the CIA drugged you with LSD, because the government doing something untoward to you and testing a drug on you, well, I can believe that before I believe you were kidnapped by aliens.
Well, I will tell you, please save that train of thought for the UFO show, because you're going to fit in perfect over there.
Oh, I'll happily go to the UFO show. I'm a big
talking about that
Fermi
a lot.
paradox. So
yeah, that's exactly. Did you say the Fermi paradox?
Yeah, the Fermi paradox.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
When I studied physics, it was astrophysics. So
gotcha. Well, let's change gears just a little bit. I'm going to move it up to 1988. This is one of the more modern ghost photos, and this is an odd
away for 1 second.
Go ahead, that's fine. Thanks for letting me know. The next one is called the Vacation Party Ghost. Okay, so this is 1988, and it's in Austria. And allegedly, you got some vacationers gathering together for a farewell party at their hotel. One of them takes a group photo. This is the thing where they set the camera on the table and then ran back to it so they could be in the photo. Here's the great thing, right? They come and develop the photo, and there's an extra person in the photo. It's like an extra head. I'm going to see if I can blow that up just a hair so you guys can look at it just a hair better. C. Michael Lanning, what do you make of the vacation ghost party photo? You think this one's real? What are some things that we could use to eliminate it?
I really wish I could. Well, one, the ghost is obviously coming through the table because she's entirely too big. I think it's interesting that there's a space big enough between the people in the back and this side over here to fit somebody there. Because if you see in that first photograph, there's no space there.
Right.
So
it looks like the wall is almost a hair different, if you ask me. I'm going to see if I can get it a little bigger. You see what I mean about the wall?
Let me see. Is it elongated? Like it's
look at in the center there. There's like a wall panel that has like a mirror or a window on it.
Right. Yeah.
And I'd swear it looks a little wider in that second photo.
I don't think those are the same photos.
Well, no,
no, that's the same photo.
No, it's two
photos.
Look
at the head shapes. The third guy in on the right.
No, it is. It's two photos. But what they're trying to show you is that supposedly what happened, again, this is allegedly, the first time the flash didn't go off, and then it went again. And in one picture, it's like a regular picture. And in the next picture, there's a head visible there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's just a space in between here that's not there in that first photo. So this was taken. Okay, so what we're saying is that this is the same instance taken twice, right?
Right.
Like they didn't set up two different pictures like this, right? So this is them taking the same picture, but it took twice, is what I'm saying.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking. It's the same group
Okay.
of people, but this is two photos.
What I'm saying is like this is the same pose, and the camera took two photos.
Well, I mean, you can see the people are a little different. So it's like click, click. It's two photos.
We'll see
Right.
in the
Okay.
second.
That's what I'm saying. You said they set it up and then they ran back to the table, but they
Right.
didn't set it up for another photo and ran back to the table.
Yeah, and allegedly it does
like a
look
double
this way.
photo.
One time the flash went off and one time it did not. That's why the lighting's a little different.
Yeah. So the flash
Okay.
looks like it went off on the top one because of how bright everything is and the sharpness of it. The bottom
Right.
one would be when it didn't. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Again, that's still my prop, and even still, so why would those people move over so much? And besides that, like that space in between the gray hair. Look, like, I'm looking at the top because the light on the bottom is kind of. But you look at the gray haired woman and the black haired woman. There's not really much space between them in that first photo. So why is there so much space between them down here?
Maybe they were moving to make room for the ghost.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very polite.
Giving her room to pull up a chair, man.
Yeah.
And this looks
They
like this
invited
obvious. This ghost looks like they're from the '80s. Look at that hairstyle. I mean, you can't tell me that ghost isn't from the '80s. So this if it flipped out like that, I think something on that roll of film got mixed in there. I think the ghost comes from the probably the the cheap one-time camera they used, or instant camera or whatever.
Instant cameras back in the day.
Yeah. This one I think this was pretty explainable. You can explain this one pretty.
Okay. Let's move over to Alan. Or let's see. I think I got out of order. Alan, you're next. What do you make of the vacation party photo?
I mean, look at the blurriness in the second shot. And they're in motion, kind of thing. That's all flawed. And if there was something wrong with that shot when it was taken, I don't know what would happen with the film, but maybe the next shot that was taken is in there coming through. But she's not in the right place. I mean, she's just not in the right place at all. She's stuck in the table. Which, I mean, if you're corporeal, you can walk through a table, but why would you walk through it sitting down?
Yeah, kneel through it. Yeah.
I don't think this is a short lady, but yeah. So there's just something that absolutely doesn't match with this.
So you're not buying this one?
Not at all.
Okay. Did we hear from Joe? I forget if I heard from Joe.
No, I was just gonna say the ghost is too damn happy. I mean, they're supposed to be, some unfinished business, and they're, wanting to cross over already. I mean, she's already there. She doesn't need our help anymore. So.
Gotcha. So I'm just going to go through some of the comments here. Allison, you're going to get the last word on the vacation party ghost. What do you make of it?
Well, I want to know, first of all, you said it was a time thing or something, because it looks like somebody's holding the camera and he got his arm in it twice.
Supposedly it was like propped up against, like he ran and got in the photo.
It's like
I think it's the table. I think it's just the angle from the perspective of the end of the table.
I'm fairly certain it says he doesn't know how to take a photo. In both situations, everybody's moving in the bottom one, and the body's way out of proportion. It just doesn't make any sense.
A great question, and Allison, I'm going to turn this back to you in a second. I didn't mean to interrupt, but paranormal predicaments. Actually, you have a good point here, which to me is here's what's compelling about this ghost photo. They don't know the person, and they didn't claim it was a ghost. They got their photos, and they're like, "What?" Like no one knew the person, and actually at the time nobody even said it was a ghost. They're like, what the heck is this? And of course, over time, people have said, "Oh, you likely got a ghost in your photo."
Okay, it's the gorilla. It's the gorilla in the room situation.
The what?
The gorilla in the room situation.
I don't know that one.
There's a video online that you can go and watch, and the big thing is they say how many times are the people in this video passing a ball around that are wearing, like, say, purple shirts or something?
Oh, right.
So you watch the video and you watch them doing all this, and at some point in it, a guy in a gorilla suit goes running out in the middle of the thing, dancing around and banging his chest, and he runs off. Most people don't notice said gorilla.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
remember
there.
that.
So it's something like that. But I mean, looking at the photo, I mean, she looks like she's in the table. I mean, I know a few magic tricks that can do that, but I don't think it's that kind of table. And she looks way too happy to be dead.
She's posing for a picture. I mean,
She's photobombing.
Why can't dead
Yeah.
people be happy?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So out of all of them, I would say
super happy.
I'm inclined to believe that this one is not a ghost photo. It seems like we have a consensus on this one. But again, for me, the tricky thing is that, like, it almost makes me believe it more if they say this is not a ghost photo. What is this? And this is, again, allegedly what these witnesses said. They didn't know the person. They never even claimed it was a ghost. In this case, it's just me saying it because this photo turns up in the ghost photo realms. So, hey, I got one more to show you before we start looking at some cool projects. This is one that I'm not sure what to make of, and I don't actually have too much information on it, but they call it the demon dog. Here's some photo of people dressed up going out to have a nice time. And then later they're like, well, what is that behind us? Do you guys see that?
That dog is amazing.
Yeah, I looked at this one really hard. Yeah.
The
Really.
demon dog. So, I guess this could be a trick of the light, maybe. See, Michael Lanning, what is the demon dog?
I have to agree with you. I would think that it's something behind them, maybe like a bouquet of flowers or something around those lines that could make that, like look like eyes. And I don't know. I think this could be an object behind them that's giving that off. I'd have to see what the setup looked like behind them before I could really buy into it. The dog's happy though. It's a very happy dog.
He's a good boy.
But you see, like, say the dog's ear kind of goes into his ear, so it kind of creates the illusion that there's an ear there, but that could actually be something behind in the background coming down. Why's it got to be demonic, though?
Yeah.
That's true.
He's just a good boy. He's looking for a treat, right?
Boy. So I think that especially the ear, because I would think it looked like a Rottweiler, maybe. But the ear is mixing with his ear, and I think that's creating that illusion there. Now I think this is an illusion. I could, it's not firm enough for me to believe that this is a demon dog or a good boy.
It could be something in the wallpaper, right? It could be something like that. Like it's just reflecting enough to where your mind is filling in the blanks.
Well, there's a flash from the shadow that's casting here, like that black part across the dog's head could be actually just a shadow from, say, where the eyes are and things like that. So yeah, it seems to be the case. Allison, what do you make of this? Is this this is obviously proof that demon dogs run wild, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a demon dog. That's what I'm saying. Of all the other things, it's a demon.
And it likes weddings.
Demon dog is a very bad boy. He's gonna go for the guy's throat in the next scene. I'm gonna go with pareidolia, and I want to know what's behind the guy to make the perfect. Like I want to know what's behind them before I'd say anything. And then on top of that, I mean, if it is a dog, because it could be a dog, just like kind of jumping up, and the photographer's like, there was no dog in the room. Well, bullshit, we just got a picture of it. So, but I'm gonna go with pareidolia.
Yeah, the tendency for people to fill in anthropomorphic traits, right? That's what that is. And here it is. The people. It was Joe and Patty Martinez, and they were at their friend's 50th anniversary.
The dogs like anniversaries. Okay.
So
let's see where we left off. Doran, what do you make of the demon dog?
Yeah, I looked at this one for a while because I found it very interesting, the snout on the dog. I don't think that's a dog snout. I think that's a banister top or something of that nature going back. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And I thought, well, why does it look like it has teeth? And then I realized it's probably your fingers coming around where she's putting her hand behind his neck in the picture.
Yeah.
So I took the teeth out, I took the banister out, and then I was stuck with the 2 eyes. And that one was where I was going, is it a demon dog like on my shirt? Is it a hellhound? I don't know. But is it where I can disprove those 2 parts of it very easily? Once staring at it and trying to take, there's this thing you can do with your eyes. You can unfocus it where you won't start to create that kind of blurry vision of things. And that's where you can kind of see pieces better. I still can't figure out the eyes though, and the kind of the dark, but the shadow on its head going through the middle to make it a head doesn't make, well, it goes into the ear. But it seems awkward. It almost like the dog would have these huge eyebrow parts going up and down, almost like a comic book drawing of the thing than they are real.
Yeah.
But if it's demonic, hey, right?
Yeah, right.
Doesn't make sense. We don't know what they look like.
In the comments, Sarah, that's a great question. The demon dog reference comes from the fella Joe Martinez, who for some reason claimed that it was satanic. Why he did so, I don't know. But over the years, it has been called this in ghost circles. The last word here is going to go to Alan Silverwood. Alan, is the demon dog an optical illusion?
No, that's a dog. That's the dog man of Guatemala. That dog is famous.
You know him.
He's known for photobombing. That's a real dog. No, I actually think that what we are seeing here is the trick of the eye. I mean, you could if you just take it apart, there is something back there that's just, like somebody. What did you say about like maybe like a bouquet of flowers or something? There may be something sitting back there because you see some like plant stuff hanging off to the right, to his left side, right?
Yep.
What is that? So there may be something back there that's on a surface next to the stairwell or something, and it looks like it could be something that's standing up, and then there's something behind that, and you kind of combine the two in a blur, and you've got something that could make. I've seen other things that form an image that's not really an image, but it's a combination of things that taken in a bad photo you can't be sure what it is, but it's not likely to be a ghost dog at all.
Ghostly Scooby snacks.
What does Joe think? I think I missed what Joe said. Did Joe say anything?
Oh, all I was going to say, if this was somebody's 50th anniversary, if it really was a demon dog, did they make it to 51? Because I don't think so.
Right. Does anybody recognize the dog?
I tell you, where I slightly objected, if you're going to talk about optical illusions, at a 50th anniversary, did those people get married when they were -5?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so.
You got to respect the stash, though. That mustache.
Yeah, he does have a banging mustache. So, hey, I'd really like to thank you guys. We had some really great answers tonight, and I'm particularly interested in hearing about what you guys are making. We're going to take a look at Magi's Grace 1 and 2. See Michael Lanning walk us through it.
Yeah, this is a project by myself and Chronicles of Oswald and Tall Tales writer J.D. Calderon, where a couple of supernatural hunters are called into the famous Innsmouth to handle a vampire attack on the residents of Innsmouth. And if you know what that is, you know Lovecraft and the old ones. So this is our second issue. This entire run is 4 issues, and it's already been penciled and inked. And JD already has the story, so you're going to get the whole story. And we got 4 days to go, so
nice. Congratulations!
Don't miss it. Thank you.
Do a quick call to action. Magi's Grace 1 and 2. I know most of these creators; they're terrific people, guaranteed to get your book. So back with confidence. Go over right now and back it.
JD is a machine when it comes to this kind of thing. So
and as I'm fond of saying, I'm a fan of your art. See Michael Lanning. Maybe you guys in the audience out there in YouTube world didn't know this, because you hear C. Michael Lanning, the first thing that occurs to you, world-renowned UFO researcher. But let me assure you, he is an artist also.
Not a very good researcher, but yeah.
Is there a UFO in this picture somewhere?
Yeah, right?
Please go over and check that out. Looks like a terrific project.
That might be a demon dog back there.
Tim, can I just say real quick, that's a little bit of a geek out for me, because I saw Magi's Grace last year, but I didn't get to meet or talk to the creator. So I always love putting a real person to these projects. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, you did. I know Child's Play Comics as well. So
Oh, sweet.
we talked on Instagram before. So yeah.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
I'm really glad I had the chance to bring you all together, and I'll save this to the end. But this panel did a great job. I wanted to jump right into this one. I'm a fan of Doran's work. I actually was a backer for Forsaken Future.
Yep,
right? That's you, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And I enjoyed that a lot. As I'm fond of mentioning, there were some cool things I really thought that you did well with that title. For instance, I like the idea of a post-apocalyptic world that has like a weather report to tell you what your climate is like. I thought that was.
But it's always acid rain. But yes.
Yeah. I thought that was really clever.
Just less acid rain, more acid rain, depending on the day of the week.
Yeah. So well done. So this is the new title. Yeah. This is Rake Hell, Quint's Curse 1-3, a demonic horror comic series. This is a pre-launch, right? So you're looking for some followers.
Yes, yeah, we're gonna launch in February, but yeah, I'm trying to get the pre-launch going, and so we're on issue 3 of this one, and so I'm at a state with this one where we're either gonna find more fans or I'm gonna end the story. So I either hit 100 and the story keeps going as planned, or I'm actually the next issue will be completing it with maybe a double issue or something like that. So because I have so many other ideas to work on and so many things lined up. I love the series. I want to keep it going. I got some super cool paranormal stuff that's never been done before I want to get in, but I might have to cut it to end the series if it doesn't get the support. So that's where I'm at with this one. But yeah, I hope for the support.
It looks good, man. I was a fan of your other series, and I just got to give a quick shout out, call to action. Go over right now and follow this pre-launch. You got a strong history of fulfilling books on time. So
being a graphic technician, printer, and I've carved my entire life to be able to publish comics and do stuff. So yes, I make sure that I would never end the series without ending the series, right? You know, some people would say, hey, I'll just walk away from it, but I'm going to write it out so it's a complete story. It'll be shorter, right?
Nice. Well, congratulations on your many successes.
Thank you.
So let's see, who do we have next here? Oh man, I can't wait for this. This is Sky Guy and the Altitude Adjusters. What a great title. Alan, walk us through this one.
This is kind of like my, you have your project to the heart. I've done a lot of different things. It's funny, I didn't bring my supernatural book here, but this is the steampunk thing I'm about to launch. We're launching next week, hopefully, and the book is complete, and the second book is already in process. Ryan Best did the art for this. Oh wow! I started the story like in 2012 or something, and then I wrote it. And I actually finished the comic book like a couple of years ago, and I've had a couple of years of health issues and stuff, which just hung everything up. But I'm finally I'm going to let this out, but I wanted to do it right. I wanted to try to do it right. So I've got a lot of things that I've put into this campaign, so that it's kind of exciting. There's going to be an action figure offered of Sky Guy himself.
Nice.
Was one of the things, but several other items. So basically, what it is it's a world where altitude adjust. I came up with the term altitude adjusters from people talking about attitude adjustments, and I was like, what would that be? And I'm like, well, that would be someone who adjusts the altitude, keeps an arrow town floating, a floating city. And I'm like, that's steampunk. And I'm like, I've always loved steampunk, and since before they even called it steampunk. And I'm like, this is the thing I want to do. So I put the story together, and it just kept growing. I mean, the characters came to life in my mind, and they come to life in the story. There's a lot of depth to their character, and each of them are very specific characters. Like Sky Guy, he's an expert pilot, but he's also afraid of heights, which he's dealing with. There are mutant people who live on the ground, which is what the guy there that's orange, Marbury is, and they come from the surface, and they're not really very welcome in arrow towns. So this is his team of altitude adjusters, and they're experts, and somebody sabotages them, and the sabotage leads them in trying to find out what happened, to have to take on other assignments while they're trying to solve this. And the solving leads to exposing a lot of secrets. Basically what it is opening up the world like an onion. It's peeling back layers as they find things out about themselves and the world while they're trying to solve who's tried to sabotage or kill them. You've got a brother and sister on the team, and an automaton who is miraculously becoming semi-sentient. There's a lot of enhanced abilities that seems to be happening with them that they don't understand. And where is that coming from? So there's just a lot of mystery about the world. It's kind of magical the way that it wakes up as you roll through.
Well, it looks terrific, Alan. And just a quick aside, I was a backer for your other series, which I thought was terrific. That was the SPIs. Right?
Oh, spies
Yeah.
among us, superpowered individuals. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was really well done. And
Thanks.
we also share an artist, right? We'll give a shout out to David Dion, who I do a lot of work with.
Oh
and
yeah, he's great. He did my second issue. Spies, the third book, is coming out this year too.
Nice. Well, congratulations. I think you got a terrific product. Viewers, go over there right now and follow the pre-launch. Again, you're dealing with a creator who's got a strong track record of putting out quality products back with confidence. So next up, I'm looking forward to hearing more about this one. Malia Mayhem #1. Joe, walk us through it, buddy.
So Malia is actually the mascot of the old retail store that my wife and I owned. Malia is based on my wife. She loves tabletop games, cosplaying, going to cons. That's why I married her. But so basically, those are the same things that Malia likes. She's a 9-year-old little girl who goes to a Comic-Con one day, and she finds a magical D20 that takes her to another world where basically all her favorite tabletop games are represented. And so she finds that this mischievous creature called the Troll is going through each game and basically messing it up from the inside. So in the real world, when people are playing a game and they're like, oh, this game's broken, something's wrong with it, it's because of him. And so her job is to somehow stop it and fix it. But the catch for her is she has to follow the rules of whatever game she's in. So if it's a game that has fighting, a little bit more easier. If it's a game where there's no fighting, she's got to figure out another way to defeat him. So it's a fun little premise. Me and my wife, my wife was the game master of our store, and I was the comic book guy. So that's kind of how we were basically a match made in heaven. But
that is cool.
But we did the 0 issue on our own, and then this one was actually supposed to be out last year, but a lot of things happened. That's why I couldn't come on Tim's show last summer. So just everything got delayed. So we're actually about to hit the 11th anniversary of our company, not necessarily making comics, but and that's when we're going to launch it, which will be in February the 16th. So
nice. That sounds terrific.
Wish I had something to show off. My Kickstarter ended in December, so
it's all right. No
I don't know
worries.
how I missed it.
No worries. Well, these projects look terrific. Quick call to action here. Go over right now and follow Malia Mayhem. This looks great, man.
Thanks.
So I really want to say thanks tonight to our guests. I think you did a terrific job analyzing and debunking some of these photos. It was nice to really work the science into it, which is something that we don't do quite as much. And also, I'm grateful to the viewers for having a pretty active comment section tonight. Thank you for that. Before we go, we'll take a quick spin. Just let the viewers know where we can find you and find your work. First up, C. Michael Lanning.
As always, check me out at landingart.com.
Perfect.
Connect to all my socials and everything. So.
And see, man, really, thanks for coming so much. You really add a lot.
Oh, no problem. I don't know how much I had, but sure.
It's always a pleasure. Hey, and it was great to have Allison. What a nice viewpoint we had, looking at sort of a scientific lens this time. Allison, tell the viewers where we can find your work.
Well, you can find me on YouTube when I post. Also, I'm on all the social media stuff. I avoid that X one because I think it's X-rated, so I generally don't put my stuff there. But just Allison McGlone or Alley Cat. I'm on Instagram, all that fun stuff. I post my art and general pain in the ass. So yeah, I usually hang out on Sundays with the guys there. We do the Sunday morning funnies. So yeah, fun stuff.
Nice. Thank you so much for
I
coming.
appreciate it. I'll come
You-
back
you-
anytime to happily debunk things. I'll happily
yeah.
debunk UFOs till I'm blue in the face.
I think you really did a great job.
Thank you.
Next up, Alan Silverwood. First up, man, thanks so much for coming, Alan. I was really looking forward to that. I'm a fan of
Thanks.
your work. And
Thank
can
you.
you tell the viewers where we can find you?
I am Pop Skull Press on Instagram, and there's a Pop Skull Press page on Facebook. I also have popskullpress.com website, but it is out of date and undergoing an overhaul. So sometimes the best place to find me is just on Facebook at the Facebook pages or the Instagram pages.
And I'm going to see you on the Creative Cranium. I got to look at the date. I don't have it right in front of me, but I know I got you coming up for a spot, right? We got another deal coming up.
We do have one planned.
Perfect. Thank you, really, Alan, for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. It's fun.
It was a pleasure.
Ghosts are my thing.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've been chasing them since I was a kid. We could do a whole bunch of stories I could tell you, but some interesting stuff. But
we'll have plenty to talk about on the next broadcast. Next up, Joe. Joe, man, thanks so much for coming. Tell us where we can find you.
So if you just go to childsplaycomics.com, at the very bottom is all our socials. We're pretty much just about everywhere. And I'm pretty active, especially on Facebook. So that's where, but I try to post everything we're talking about all across the board.
Nice. Thanks for coming, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate that. I'm going to give the last word to Doran. Doran, thank you for joining us. It's so good to see you again. Tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've been able to cross paths.
Yeah.
You can find me at whitefirecomics.com. You can get your digital comics there, see trailers and what other stuff projects I have on the go and possibly into the future. And as well, of course, Raquel is on Kickstarter right now. Please go and sign up and support it. It's going to be a blast either way.
Perfect. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We will see you next week. We're going to talk about the top 11 scariest video game moments. I hope to see you. That'll be Friday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, everybody have a great week. See you.